Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video we have another thought-provoking presentation by evolutionary astrologer Daniel Fiverson looking at the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and other significant transits. Please note there is the use of modern rulerships in this presentation. And lastly, if you wish to view our current class, workshop and webinar offerings, please visit keplercollege.org. And without further ado, let's get into the video.
Welcome to this edition of the Astrological Weather Report. My name is Daniel Fiverson. I am an evolutionary astrologer trained and certified in the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology. I'm an astrological intuitive and have studied astrology, tarot, and I Ching since the conjunction of Uranus and Pluto in the 1960s. I publish regular astrological forecasts under the banner of the Astrological Weather Report. Today, I am speaking from my fourth house Jupiter retrograde in Sagittarius. Jupiter is philosophy, so I am holding that vibe by taking a philosophical approach about the upcoming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. This major outer planet conjunction, which occurs every 14 years, is second in importance this year only to the ingress of Pluto in Aquarius. When Jupiter and Uranus join forces, tremendous energies are released, formatted by the sign in which the conjunction occurs. These energies can create significant reforms that transform society. Circumstances are now conspiring to raise our consciousness and reconnect to the healing potentials of the natural world. As these planetary forces of social expansion come together, the 14-year cycle unlocks the karmic necessity of what Thomas Berry called the Great Work. The geologist, eco-philosopher, and theologian Thomas Berry expressed that we need a new story or cosmology to step back from the edge of catastrophic destruction. Thomas Berry's The Great Work, written in 1999 at the dawn of the 21st century, has been described as a deep reflection on our current ecological and cultural predicament. Berry wrote, "Our challenge is to create a new language, even a new sense of what it is to be human, to transcend not only national limitations, but even our species' isolation, to enter into the larger community of living species. This brings about a completely new sense of reality and value. The great work now as we move into this new millennium is to carry out the transition from a period of human devastation of the earth to a period when humans will be present to the planet in a mutually beneficial manner. Everything has a right to be recognized and revered. Trees have rights, insects have insect rights, rivers have river rights, and mountains have mountain rights." We are presently standing at the threshold of a new age. We have been told by prophets, seers, psychics, clairvoyants, metaphysicians, professors, and scientists that these times were coming. We are now experiencing the birth pangs of that fated and destined future. The emergence of deadly viral infections, political polarity, international conflict, and extreme economic disparities are all evidence of a world out of order, out of balance. As a species, we have plundered the earth and stripped it of its life-sustaining resources for material gain. We have defiled the natural sacred abundance of our planetary home. Greed, materialism, unenlightened self-interest, and patriarchy have driven the headlong advance of science and technology at the high price of the Earth's once abundant natural resources. The European visitors who settled on our shores saw only the natural resources as something to be mined for profit, rather than recognizing the spiritual intelligence and communal lifestyle of the natives they encountered. They began their long-term subjugation and extermination of the people who had lived here for centuries. Jupiter measures the cycles of our lives in 12-year chapters. Jupiter and Uranus are the foundations of society. Jupiter is the abundance of the earth, the manifest natural world. It's the expansion principle, the growth process, the growth cycle. Sometimes Jupiter's growth cycle runs wild, trampling on boundaries. Jupiter and Sagittarius correlate to inherent restlessness. Change is the only constant. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, making it bigger, but not necessarily better. Jupiter activates the sign of Sagittarius, the centaur, aiming his arrow high toward the sky. Sagittarius is our developing self-awareness that includes the multiverses of others. The intention is to reach out beyond our current understanding of the world around us, to connect with that which is greater than ourselves. We become a student of life. We can become a philosopher. We can become the teacher. Sagittarius and Jupiter correlate to our belief system. Jupiter's enthusiasm and joie de vivre can overrun their boundaries and become proselytizing. Sagittarius's ultimate truth can degenerate into personal truth and opinion. Jupiter correlates to the to-be process, anchored in social interaction. Sagittarius is the final segment of the self-actualization process that began in Aries and focused in Leo. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, the sign that follows Capricorn. Saturn's consensus reality domain. Astrologically, Uranus is considered to be the great interrupter and disruptor. Capricorn creates structure and form. Saturn and Capricorn correlate to the process of maturation, mastery, and the development of skills. It is the cycle of who we are becoming, driven by a higher intellect. Uranus is the polarity to the sign of Leo. Leo is the process of I know who I am. Uranus is the process of I know who I am becoming. It's our sense of community. With Uranus in play, transformation is guaranteed. Uranus interrupts, disrupts, and dislodges outmoded behaviors and structures, clearing the way for new growth. As structures age, they must be replaced and modified to support current conditions. The air element Uranus sends a fierce windstorm down upon what is outdated, uprooting it so that something else can grow there. Uranus can be either Promethean, progressive, or Epimethean, regressive. Change is the directive, but is it progressive change or change that reverts back to the way that things used to be? In myth, Jupiter was the king of the gods and ruled with his lightning-tipped spear. Uranus was his grandfather. His father was Saturn, whom he and his siblings assassinated. Saturn also committed the patricide of Uranus. The onus of patrimony hangs heavy over these generations of immortals. It's a tale of actions motivated by self-preservation. Astrologer and cultural historian Richard Tarnas, who wrote the groundbreaking book Cosmos and Psyche, wrote, "When Jupiter and a second planet enter into alignment, Jupiter's archetypal influence seems to be one of magnifying and supporting the second planetary archetype, expanding it, granting it success, bringing it to fruition. When that second planet is Uranus, representing the breaking down of existing modes of viewing and experiencing life and bringing in radical new approaches and perspectives, we can expect, in combination with Jupiter's core association with the endless quest for meaning, peaks in the process of restless exploration." On April 20th, 2024, Jupiter and Uranus will begin a new 14-year cycle. The conjunctions will occur in March and April, but the two outer planet heavies will be in orb to each other until early summer 2038. They will conjoin again 3 times in Cancer from 2037 to 2038. This first conjunction occurs in Taurus, ruled by Venus in Aries. Venus sits at the heart of this six-point stellium that spans the sign of Aries. The transit will conclude at the end of June of 2038. Through the 14-year cycle, Jupiter will make its normal circuit of the zodiac, visiting all 12 signs. Uranus will transit through the personal signs of Taurus through Cancer, ruled by the planets closest to the Earth, Mercury, Venus, and the Moon. The Uranian frequencies will be delivered in ways that will affect us personally. As the ruler of the sign that Pluto will transit through that same time frame, Uranus, we can expect karmic lessons to be on the agenda as the baseline for our personal experiences. Pluto takes no prisoners. Uranus is a determined negotiator. Jupiter makes everything bigger. The archetype of Taurus is about self-reliance, identifying what is essential for survival. It generates the need to hunker down and establish personal fortifications, financially and emotionally, sometimes to the point of isolation. The primary concern is survival at whatever cost. When Jupiter and Uranus meet in Taurus, they can produce dogmatic thinking. Sometimes no attention is given to the consequences of their actions. There can be hubris and arrogance with unforeseen consequences. This is the chart of the April conjunction. Mercury in its retrograde condition, Venus, Eris, and asteroid Hygeia, Chiron, and the lunar north node are all clustered in the sign of Aries. And below here, you can see the transit report of each of the conjunctions and the entering and leaving phases of being an orb over the next 14 years. The shape of the chart is what's known as a sling, with a gibbous Virgo moon handle. Its dynamic is just what it sounds like. Events and corresponding terrestrial experiences are wound up and spun by the moon. The moon is our emotional body. We will ride a roller coaster of emotional crises, challenges, and perhaps breakthroughs if we can hold it together and work through it. This is the nature of the karmic process that underlies this 14-year celestial moment. The underlying direction will be the work on the self through direct emotional experience. The Earth demands the work, as does our psyches. The Earth is our home in the universe. The moon is our moment-to-moment connection to the waves of impulses from source. It is our most conscious part. Pluto emotionally empowers the moon. Jupiter expands the tension of the emotional content of the celestial moment. One of the past issues is that justice must be served. The American Revolution unfolded during the 1775 Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Aries. World War I started under a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Aquarius, and during that same time frame, Carl Jung wrote the Red Book and Tolkien's Middle Earth mythology emerged. Aries is the initiation point of the self-realization process that progresses through the fire triad. The fire element teaches us about ourselves and the world around us instinctively, just like the child who touches a hot iron, even though they were warned not to, and learns what happens through direct emotional experience. Aries is impulsive. Act first, think later. Actions and choices can be self-centered. The conjunction occurs, as I said, in earthbound Taurus, and Venus in Aries is its ruler. This implies that there will be crises in our relationships with ourselves, others, and the Earth itself. Self-reliance is the Taurus catchphrase. According to the emotional map drawn by the value of our self-worth, self-reliance is embedded in our values and priorities. In Aries, this will funnel more attention to the self to fulfill essential needs. Our values and priorities will be focused on what we need to survive as a species. This chained series of planetary bodies acts as a holistic, multivalent frequency that together forms the foundation of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Each of the celestial components adds their voice to the cosmic chorus. Venus applies to a balsamic semi-sextile to Jupiter, and watch how often I use the term balsamic as we walk through these aspects. There is a need to find closure, which is inherent to a balsamic aspect. There is a series of awareness of our relationships with ourselves, others, and the earth itself. In Aries, this will funnel more attention to the self to fulfill essential needs. Mercury correlates to the nature of our cognitive nature, how we speak and how we think. Mercury is a collector of data. Mercury assembles ideas and opinions. Sagittarius becomes an entire cosmology, but Mercury assembles ideas and opinions. Mercury retrograde will bring our attention back to what has transpired, not just over days or weeks, but over centuries. Like the pattern of patricide among the gods, the sons and daughters have carried forward the ills of the father. Mercury promises a new way of thinking. Pallas Athena shakes things up with a new, more natural approach to ongoing issues. Eris might throw a wrench into the works to accelerate the changes. The lunar nodes actively seek to pull a different rabbit out of the hat for the future. Cognitive awareness emerges that we are approaching a non-negotiable horizon line. Mars in Pisces forms an exact balsamic sextile to Jupiter and separates from a balsamic sextile to Uranus. Mars is armed and ready for battle. A waxing septile to Pluto is a siren song. There is a faded quality to the way events are unfolding. A waning septile to asteroid Astrea hints at justice served. There will be circumstances that demand a broader vision and more conscious choices. Mars in Pisces will require that we face complex and confusing circumstances that can only be understood with a broader vision and higher consciousness. It is lunacy to think that the same failed decisions will lead to a different outcome. The recognition must occur that we are a global community. Partisan agendas are no longer a viable option. A new sense of empowerment activates a sacred commitment to our priorities. Eris separates from new phase conjunctions to the Sun and Mercury, Venus and Chiron. The lunar north node applies to a balsamic conjunction to Eris. The need for closure is again highlighted. Slowly advancing through her 530-year orbit, Eris is the unexpected guest who will show up unannounced, bearing provocative gifts. Mythically, she's a rogue personality, hell-bent on punishing transgression. She fertilizes the timeline with karmic necessities. The path to this moment has been long and hard. The path that looms going forward is steep and demands absolute dedication to what we need to survive. Chiron in Aries applies to a balsamic semi-sextile to Jupiter, conveying a sense of wounding. This correlates to the emergence of new healing methodologies for healing the planet. Chiron will present cutting-edge homeopathic remedies to heal our global community and Mother Earth. Hard choices need to be addressed. We must learn how to save ourselves. There can be no shirking of responsibility. Asteroid Hygeia separates from a waning balsamic semi-square to Jupiter, another balsamic need for closure. Proactive self-care Hygeia suggests that health crises reflect how we have ignored sacred tasks. We are getting higher mind downloads. All disease begins in the spiritual body. From there, imbalances seek neural pathways to the mental body. From there, it progresses to the emotional body, and then the physical body becomes ill, often too late. Hygeia supports hands-on self-care. Since COVID, the medical community has dwindled in number, and now the ability to obtain high-value healthcare has diminished. We must learn to advocate for ourselves. A separating balsamic sextile to Neptune adds some confusion to the moment. It dissolves the boundaries we have mentally created as a safety zone. Confusion serves an essential purpose. It forces us to re-examine what's going on and make different choices. It opens the doorway to intuition, higher knowledge, and transcendence. The lunar north node in Aries applies to a balsamic conjunction to Mercury retrograde. This profound combination maximizes the need for closer attention to future needs. It magnetizes the future with instincts and intentions to stabilize the earth that is shifting beneath our feet. Our potential future reveals a wide range of possible outcomes. What we will experience will be determined by the choices we make in this moment. There's no longer any room for error. The lunar south node in Libra forms an exact biquintile to Jupiter. We will have multiple opportunities to rebalance the past and create a more stable and balanced future. New creativity and individuality can flourish, but the opportunities must be recognized when they surface and acted upon. Carpe diem. Minor planet Ceres separates from a waning last quarter crisis in consciousness trine to Jupiter. Her message is that no one is coming to save us. We are learning the hard lesson that self-nurturing is the only viable option in the future. We cannot trust corporate farming. The food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe are all under attack by corporate agendas. When I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, you could walk through any aisle in the supermarket without needing to check the healthiness of what was on the shelves. That is no longer the case. We must learn that each of us is now responsible for our well-being. Asteroid Vesta forms an exact balsamic sextile to Jupiter. The goddess of the sacred fire opens a new sense of authenticity for individuals and communities. The medieval mindset that has driven society for millennia has taken us to the point of no return. Extinction looms on the event horizon. Vesta correlates to enlightened self-interest and commitment to personal authenticity. We have active support from our higher self and the part of us that connects to the soul. Asteroid Juno applies to a waxing first quarter bisextile to Jupiter. She was the co-ruler of Olympus, disempowered by her husband Zeus. Her unfailing sense of faithfulness dictates that we must each make a new commitment to a sustainable lifestyle that supports the environment and our community. We must commit to our highest priorities for health and well-being. The time of the lone wolf is past. We must join together as a community to reverse the effects of what has happened during the 20th century. Minor planet Sedna separates from a new phase conjunction to Jupiter. This newly discovered planet holds the promise of higher consciousness. Alan Clay tells us that we will experience the pain of the crisis of transcendence, where we are forced to let go of our old spiritual framework and rise to a new consciousness. I have identified 7 balsamic aspects in this conjunction. Closure is no longer just an option. It is now essential. As the next decade unfolds, we will experience opportunities for personal and collective growth, new creativity, and individuality in a new worldview. We will experience challenges to our well-being physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Excuse me. All of this will awaken our higher awareness. It is essential that we take responsibility for our choices, thoughts, and deeds and actions with the intense array of Aries energy embedded in this conjunction. Neptune ingresses Aries over the next few years as well. These are opportunities for a rebirth. We need to recognize that we are not just people cohabiting the planet. We are a unity connected to the anima mundi of the earth. World events will drive home this understanding through karmic necessity that there's only one of us on the planet. The deepest crises experienced by any society are those moments of change when the story becomes inadequate for meeting the survival demands of a present situation. Until technologists learn reverence for the earth, there will be no possibility of bringing a healing or a new creative age to the planet. Thomas Berry. This forecast is a one-size-fits-all mundane astrology interpretation of this celestial moment. This conjunction can unfold in many different, more detailed ways. If evolutionary astrology resonates with you, I suggest you contact me to learn how this powerful energetic event will unfold for you over time. You can contact me at daniel@evolutionaryastrologer.net to schedule your reading. The feedback I receive from my clients tells me that you will not be disappointed. You may have had other readings. EA will tell you why. You already know what. This is how you can reach me. My readings direct you towards finding the purpose in your life that will lead you to live your passion. I write frequent blogs and forecasts on my website, evolutionaryastrologer.net. And these are my social web addresses. Contact me, please, at Daniel at Evolutionary Astrology to schedule your personal reading. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to this YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Namaste.